Good afternoon, my conscious co-creators. Good morning, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. I am very, very pleased that you are all here with me today. We've got a wonderful show in store for you with a dear guest, and I'm really looking forward to bringing her on soon. But first, of course, we have my blog post from a couple of years ago, just kind of taking these in order. And it's amazing just how apropos they are for who comes on the show each week. And this blog post is entitled, "To do our deep inner work, we need to feel safe enough to be vulnerable." When we are engaged in deep inner work, we need several things: acceptance from those around us, time and space to integrate, an environment that supports us. And the most essential thing we need is safety. Safety does not come from a locked door or a quiet neighborhood. It comes from the feeling we get when those around us accept us. We cultivate that feeling of safety from knowing that our community supports us and is willing to and will allow us to be the way we are as we work through things. For they have been through the process themselves, so they know what it is to be vulnerable and scared. For when we are in the midst of doing the deep work to unwind our trauma, it doesn't look pretty. It is messy and awkward and needs to be handled with care and compassion. And to feel safe in that space, we need to know and feel that others have been there and can relate to what we are going through. If they haven't, there is just no way for them to understand, no matter how well-meaning they may be. For us to be truly understood and supported in the way we need, it takes a level of understanding that only comes from experience. And that experience breeds compassion and acceptance in a deep and profound way. Only then can we feel safe to be vulnerable enough to dig deep and face the fact that we are hurt, in pain, scared to death, and afraid. To come face to face with the most terrifying aspects of our lives takes courage. But we can only get there when the safety of the container we work in is at the highest levels. True safety is the only thing that can allow us to be that vulnerable. It might be a little different for each of us, but we all know the feeling. We can recognize in an instant if we truly feel safe in our community or not, even if we do not consciously know it. So many little things can break the safety of the container. We must be mindful of those things so we can show up not only for ourselves, but for others as well. It is not an easy thing to decide to engage in this level of deep work, but the rewards are well worth it. The freedom, the joy, the peace we so long for are just on the other side of this work. Do you know what you need to feel safe enough to be vulnerable? Have you a community that can hold the space for you to do your deep inner work? So I wrote this blog post a couple of years ago after having switched mentors. And I've spoken in the past how my former mentor and I always were kind of butting heads, and he always kept saying things like, "I'm not showing up," even though I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm showing up every month. I'm here." And And it took me a long time to realize that I just didn't feel safe doing my work around him for whatever reason. I just didn't. Even though I'm like, what do you mean? I'm showing up every month. Oops. Um, and when I switched mentors, and I just felt different being with my new mentor, it was really quite interesting because I didn't realize how unsafe that I had felt before. And then as I started to work with him and with the other people who were apprenticing with him, I found I was able to be much more vulnerable in this container than I had in prior containers. That I could show up and be honest about my struggles and where I was at in a way I hadn't been able to be before. And in reflecting on why I was able to do that, it was because I felt safe and accepted by the other people in the container who were also doing their deep work, who were also being vulnerable, who weren't criticizing me, who weren't giving me a hard time about stuff, but who were supporting me to show up in a way perhaps I hadn't shown up before. So that's where this blog post kind of came from. So it's taking what I've talked about before about not feeling safe and bringing it into what does it feel like when we do feel safe? What happens? How much deeper can we go in our process when we're really doing our deep inner work with other people who are doing their deep inner work, and how that trust and that acceptance is so important. And, if that trust ever gets broken, then we have to work to repair it for not just for ourselves, for the other people. And with the healing work that I do, and now that I hold groups for other people, and we just did one out in Southampton uh, uh, the other weekend, last weekend, and it was a beautiful, beautiful weekend, and people were able to go deep in their process. I believe because we were able to hold the container and accept people for where they were at and not judge them, not criticize them, but just be there with them and hold space for them. And it's so, so important. And maybe in a future episode where it's just me without a guest, maybe I'll dive a little bit deeper into this topic. But I hope you enjoyed that blog post. The title again is "To Do Our Deep Inner Work, We Need to Feel Safe Enough to Be Vulnerable." And you can always find my blog at theconsciousconsultant.com or on the talk radio website, talkradio.nyc/blog. So thank you so much. And don't forget, if you enjoyed my blog posts, I have a whole book of them called Everyday Awakening, and you can still find it at all major booksellers, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, wherever you like to get your books. Just if they don't have it, ask them to order a copy of Everyday Awakening by Sam Liebowitz. And now it is my extreme pleasure to welcome to the show spiritual leader, intuitive, pioneer in spiritual intelligence, and president, Reverend Dr. Kimberly Marooney. Reverend Dr. Kimberly Marooney is an internationally recognized spiritual leader, intuitive pioneer in spiritual intelligence. She blends entrepreneurship, and spiritual insights to guide individuals towards fulfilling their soul's mission. As president of Gateway University, a school for the study of higher consciousness founded in 1981, Kimberly specializes in doctoral degrees for mid to late career thought leaders and heart-centered entrepreneurs, our kind of people. Kimberly's teachings and transformative programs have opened doors to larger stages, collaborations, and global impact, inspiring others to embrace their divine potential. As founder of the Angel Ministry, she has ordained over 100 interfaith ministers worldwide and mentors doctoral candidates in fulfilling their soul's mission while gaining credibility through advanced degrees. Welcome to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Reverend Dr. Kimberly.
Well, thank you, Sam. I'm just truly delighted to be here with you.
Yes, it's a pleasure. And Kimberly and I are not just colleagues, but we're friends. We've known each other for quite a number of years through a wonderful organization you've heard me mention before, the Evolutionary Business Council, and the relationships with the people I've met through there is one of the reasons why that organization is always so near and dear to my heart. So it's a pleasure to finally have you come on the show.
Well, thank you, Sam.
So, for our audience who might not know you, let's just talk about your background a little bit before we go to our first break. So, were you always on a very spiritual path? Were you, did you see angels as a little girl, or was this something that kind of evolved later in life?
I'm a preacher's kid,
Ah,
and my grandparents were missionaries, and my great-grandparents were preachers. So if I was in the Hindu culture, I would be in that particular caste. And in fact, my grandparents were missionaries to India, where my father and his older brother were born.
oh,
So I picked well. I chose well when I picked this life. I started to have mystical experiences in my teens, and so
wow,
yes,
wow,
this
wow.
was my soul calling to bring in the areas of spirituality that have been placed into my heart and soul for
Hmm.
this purpose.
Just out of curiosity, do you remember what your very first mystical experience was as a teenager?
Yes, I was, I think about 15. I was at
Hmm.
a summer camp, a Christian summer camp, because my dad
Hmm.
was a Presbyterian minister. I got to go every year. And it was on Catalina Island off the coast of California, off of Long Beach. And they had us, all of us little campers, out around a bonfire on a beautiful starry summer night.
Hmm.
And we were, they had us praying to Lord Jesus. And
Hmm.
so I remember my prayer, I was praying, Lord Jesus, I just want you to hold me. I want to know you. I want you to hold me. And I felt a hand on my shoulder. And, I was a pretty twitchy, jumpy kid. So,
Hmm.
so I twitched and jumped and looked around, and there wasn't even anybody near me. I was kind of off on my own in the back.
Hmm.
Went back into my prayer again, and I'm praying, oh Lord Jesus, please come to me, hold me, let me know you're here. And I felt that hand on my shoulder again. And again, I opened my eyes and jumped, because you know how sometimes kids will tap your shoulder and then run off.
Yeah.
There was nobody anywhere near me who could have even done that. So third time, I go back into my prayer, Lord Jesus, hold me, be with me. I want to know you're here. And once again, I felt this really gentle hand on my shoulder, and it finally occurred to me that my prayer was actually being answered. And Lord Jesus was saying, I'm here with you. I'm here with you. And
Hmm.
then when I relaxed into that, I felt this warmth of love transfer from that hand into my heart. So that was my first experience with mysticism. I didn't
Wow.
know what it was because, no, it wasn't part of my education.
Right.
And
Right.
so it took several years for me to understand what that experience was. I just kind of went about my life and forgot about it. But as I started to get mentors, like you were talking about your mentor, and I started to learn about spirituality and mysticism, it started to, well, the angels started talking to me,
Hmm.
it's all over from there.
Yeah, it's all downhill from there, as they say. So just out of curiosity, since you were a preacher's daughter, did you go to seminary or did you go to a regular college?
I got my bachelor's degree in music performance at a regular college. And then
Okay.
when I met my lifetime friend and mentor, Reverend Dr. Judith Larkin Reno, the first thing she did was to recognize really the calling of my soul, the power of the calling of my soul. And I
Mm,
went through a 2-year ministerial training with her. She didn't
okay.
want to call it a seminary because she didn't want it to, she didn't want people to be confused about what it was.
Uh,
And so she called it a school of ministry rather than a seminary. It's part
okay.
of Gateway University. That was my first introduction to Gateway University. And through
Wow.
that, I got to meet an incredible group of people. And like your experience with your mentor, we were together for many years, deepening our relationships, building that atmosphere of trust where we could share our deepest fear and pain and sorrows,
Mm,
and to release them, and
hmm.
and um, and make lifelong friendships. I'm still friends with many of those people from the 1980s.
Wow. Wonderful. Wonderful. Awesome. Okay. So let's pause for a moment and go to break. And when we come back, I just want to get into sort of how you went from being a student at Gateway to actually running Gateway, and like what was it that made you decide that like this was going to be what you do for the rest of your life? And really what sort of prompted you to bring the spirituality to a place of being the center of your life, okay?
Okay.
Wonderful. So, everyone, please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. We do this every Thursday, 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on talkradio.nyc and all over social media. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Twitch. And we will be right back with our guest, Reverend Dr. Kimberly Marooney, in just a moment.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
If you don't have your health, what do you really have? It's time to feel good in your body and shift from struggle to ease. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Tripp, your host of Nourish the Soul, where we explore the sacred wisdom of your body while you sit back, relax, and go on a journey of self-discovery. Join me every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to awaken your heart, transform your well-being, and unlock a deeper understanding of yourself.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
And welcome back to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. Yes, there was a new commercial in there. You may have noticed our dear friend Elizabeth Tripp, as I had mentioned before, has come back to the station after taking a few years hiatus with her show, Nourish the Soul. We're very happy to have her back in the station. Make sure you catch her show every Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. It's a great, if you like my show, you'll love her show as well. So, Dr. Kimberly, Reverend Dr. Kimberly, um, at what point did the pull of the mystical um, become so strong that you decided to make it sort of the center of your life?
I had been a stockbroker and a financial planner. And like many of us who are not following our soul's calling, I got extraordinarily ill. You know, the story, the usual story with autoimmune disorders that nobody knows what to do with.
Hmm.
And so I started my healing journey. I also had a really nasty divorce, and I'd been in therapy for a couple years, and the therapy wasn't really moving me forward at all. It was, standard kind of marriage and family practice kind of stuff. And one of my fellow stockbrokers came to me one day and he said, it just hurts my heart too much to watch you suffer like this. Please go see my friend Judith Larkin Reno, or she was Judith Larkin at that time. She
Uh-huh.
could actually help you. So sure enough, I scheduled a therapy session with Judith. I met her and she became my godmother, my lifelong friend,
Mm.
a spiritual partner. She was the founder of Gateway University. And so I
Uh,
started
Where
getting,
were you physically at that time?
I was in San Diego, in
San
California,
Diego. Okay.
in the United States,
Yeah.
San Diego, California, USA.
Yes.
I love it when people say a city and I have no idea where in the world that might be.
Mhm.
So I started with her doing therapy, and then she started inviting me, as she got to know me, she invited me to take classes because she was teaching quite a few classes.
Mm.
Then from there, she invited me to join the 2-year ministry program. And
Mm.
so I was ordained in her very first class ever. I'm minister number 10.
Wow.
Mhm. And so from there, I started, so I got very sick and I had to quit working for a variety of reasons. But
Uh,
when I came out of that illness, the angels came to me and started to help me to recover. And the result of that was my angel blessings cards. Um,
oh.
Many people might recognize my angel blessings cards. Oh, I've got Archangel Raphael there, healing on the end. Um,
Mhm.
and oh, for those of you who care, it's Charmienne, the angel of harmony, who's with us today, helping us.
Oh, okay.
So when I wrote angel blessings cards, Judith told me, you need more education where you're going. So she encouraged me to do my master's degree in angelology. From all of my understanding, I am the only one well, I was the first one in the world to ever have a master's degree in angelology.
Okay.
Since
Wow.
then, I've seen a few of them here and there, like two.
Mm.
And then after that, she said, "Well, now you need." So I continued to write and publish books. She said, "Now you need your doctorate." And I really argued with her on that. I said, "I don't like academia. I didn't enjoy my master's degree. I sure as heck don't want a doctorate." But she persisted, and over time, she wore me down. And speaking of trust and vulnerability, I trusted her because everything she had ever forecast about me actually came true. And
Oh.
she would do things like she'd call me and she'd say, I was just looking at your chart and your north nodes are acting up. You might be noticing these things in your life. Well, this is what you do about it. So, she did that for me. And
Nice.
so I agreed. She dragged me kicking and screaming through my own doctoral journey. But I
Mm.
did finish. I completed and became Dr. Kimberly. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't tell anybody for like 10 years. I didn't tell anybody. I told my mom and dad, and they said, "That's nice, dear." So it was a funny thing for me.
Yeah. Uh,
So
um,
then
um,
then Judith got really
mhm.
ill, and she started asking me if I
Wow.
would be her successor. So it wasn't my idea.
Ah,
She
okay.
talked to me for 5 years before I was willing to say yes. And the way that happened was spirit came after me. I don't know if you know how that works.
Yes.
The longer you delay in saying yes, the more you suffer. Because
Absolutely.
life doesn't support any other choice at some point. At some point, life will only support the direction you're supposed to go, which makes it really evident to us. So
Yeah.
I'd started to have dreams at night. I'd started to see visions in my meditation. I started to feel what the next direction for Gateway University was. And so finally I just said, all right, okay. So then she lived another 5 years after that. She kept herself alive for 20 years on a zero life expectancy. So she
Wow.
could wait for me to say yes. And, looking back, I'm a little sad
Hmm.
that, but also, everything is for a purpose. So it
Right.
allowed me
Right.
to come to a level of maturity where I could, put those shoes on, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, so she had done all the paperwork. I'd met the board of directors. There was the resolutions for this and that and the other thing that you have to have in the 501(c)(3) corporate world. And then she called me one day and said, come now. So it was quite a long distance. I hopped in the car and drove the 1,500 miles to get there. And she spent 4 days with me, signing over all the papers to me, turning in her resignation, giving me all of the corporate documents. She meticulously had prepared like 15 banker's boxes of the corporate records and went
Wow.
through everything with me, what I needed to do, what I needed to know as the president. I wished much later that she had been able to live longer because I could have used a lot more tutelage. As
Hmm.
it was, I had to figure it out myself, but she's always with me. She's always whispering in my ear, and that's been very sweet. So that's how I stepped into the shoes of president of Gateway
Hmm.
University, kicking and screaming all the way, but finally saying, okay, yeah, I can do this. And it was then that I realized that I needed to have a doctorate to be president of the university. I needed to
Ah.
be both a minister and a doctor because Gateway is a church university, which means that we have a different status that allows us to do different things than
Mhm.
some other kinds of educational institutions.
I'm curious, you mentioned your parents just a minute ago. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, Given their sort of more traditional background, how were they with all this when you became a minister and then head of this unusual university?
Well, my mom was certain I was on the path to the
Yeah.
devil. She didn't mince any words telling me I was on the path to the devil. And I'd say stuff like, "Well, Mom, look at my life.
Mm,
Look at my husband. Look at my friends.
mm,
Look at
mm,
what I'm doing in life. Everything about me is about loving connection. It's about grace. It's about healing.
mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Look
One,
at the fruits of my labors in
right,
biblical terms.
right. Exactly, exactly. So she eventually came around.
She did. And it was funny because in the end of her life, she'd say stuff like, "Oh dear, I always believed in you." Well, I don't quite remember it that way. I'm glad you
Right.
do.
Right, right. Well, she may have always believed in you, but let's just say she kept those words to herself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Interesting,
Well,
interesting.
I was fortunate. I had really good parents.
And what about your husband, your children? How did they respond to all this?
I don't have children.
Oh,
I'm a childless cat lady.
okay.
Um,
But your friends, let's say.
Yeah, so I do have a husband. He's wonderful. We met on the spiritual path, so we're very aligned in our inner life, which makes a huge
Mhm.
difference in a long-term relationship. We've
Yes.
been together now over 20 years, and there's because of our past experience on our spiritual paths together, there's a language of communication that we learn together
Mm,
through that makes it easy for us to share. And he has been really wonderful because speaking of vulnerability, he's been the only partner in my life that I ever felt completely safe with to
mm,
be able to say anything to share my feelings. Um, but what we've learned together is that it's important to be responsible when you're sharing your feelings with your partner. It's not allowed to just dump your crap out on them, excuse me, to dump your pain. It's not allowable to just
mm,
dump your pain on them. With spiritual maturity comes a different kind of sharing where you're able to express fear and pain in a way that is healing and not damaging.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. It's time for us to take our next break. I'd love to get into really what is Gateway University? What is it all about? What kinds of doctorates do you get at Gateway? And who is a Gateway really designed for? So that if some of our listeners can identify themselves maybe and say, oh, like that's something I'd be interested in. All right, wonderful. Ooh, and I do see loyal listener Patty tuning in on YouTube. Thank you so much, Patty. Glad you're here with us this week. And of course, thanks you to all of my loyal listeners. And you're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. And we'll be right back with my guest, Reverend Dr. Kimberly Marooney, in just a moment.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
If you don't have your health, what do you really have? It's time to feel good in your body and shift from struggle to ease. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Tripp, your host of Nourish the Soul, where we explore the sacred wisdom of your body while you sit back, relax, and go on a journey of self-discovery. Join me every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to awaken your heart, transform your well-being, and unlock a deeper understanding of yourself.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
And welcome back. So, Dr. Kimberly, tell us a bit about Gateway University. You mentioned a little bit already about how it's a different kind of university. What is the whole mission of Gateway? What is it about? Who is it for?
So Gateway is for those of us who have picked perhaps an alternate path in life. If you're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, it's likely that we're aligned.
Yes.
So consciousness is our middle name or our first name. So Gateway University is a school for the study of higher consciousness. That's our whole name. And so we have degree programs for things like transpersonal education, transpersonal psychology, energy psychology, spiritual psychology, consciousness and human potential. That's in our School of Transformation. We also have a School of Conscious Business, which is about entrepreneurship and leadership. And we also have the School of Ministry. So for those of us who come for a degree, we can also offer a ministerial ordination, an interfaith ministerial ordination to allow people who need that in their work going forward.
And is Gateway a physical university or is it a virtual university?
At this point, we're virtual. So I'm up in Washington State on the Olympic Peninsula in a really beautiful area, but I'm pretty remote out here.
Yeah.
And so we do have a hybrid learning system. So part of the lessons are online. It's mentored, so even the online lessons are mentored. So there's that personal contact. And then periodically we have live events for our students to where we get together in person and do the kinds of things that we can't do really on Zoom. And that really has to do with deepening our emotional connection with each other and with that vulnerability question, because the doctoral journey can be pretty lonely.
Yeah.
And so it's important to have that community of support, of connection, of encouragement, of inspiration where we help each other.
Hmm. And who would you say it's for in terms of like how would somebody know like, oh, this sounds like the right fit for me?
So we're for thought leaders, for conscious entrepreneurs who are hitting up against a ceiling of some sort. They're having difficulty breaking through onto bigger stages, into bigger collaborations with partners. You know, they see the other people up on the big stage and they're kind of on the B team, but they're really ready to break through into the A team. And as one of our students noticed, she was trying to figure out what's wrong, what's the problem. She would submit her proposals to speak on stages and she'd get declined. And she said when she was looking at the speakers who were approved, every single woman had a PhD. And another of our current students, our current cohort, doctoral cohort, attended a big coaching event and said that he noticed that the best speakers were all PhDs and they had a different formula for their talk. They were bringing in much more fact-based information rather than just storytelling. So their story included a much deeper body of knowledge, and that gave them a deeper level of credibility. It increased their expert status dramatically, and that there was a huge difference. He noticed a huge difference between the speakers who had a doctorate and the ones who didn't. So there's just a level of deepening that happens, a level of maturity that happens, because it's not an easy path. You know, it takes a while. It takes some persistence and some determination and courage. There's a lot of vulnerability that happens. I bet a fairly good percentage of the mentor sessions I do with our doctoral cohort have some therapy involved in them. Because we are pushed up against our fears. We're pushed up against our deepest issues and our greatest fears to push through and make it to the end of a doctorate. It's also extremely rewarding and an incredible experience.
Yeah.
So even the students who said when they first came, you know, I really don't want the transformation part, I'm just here for the degree. I watched them go through this remarkable transformation and become really even more incredible people as Dr. Them.
Um, how long is the doctoral program typically? I mean, imagine that most people are probably working or have a business themselves, so it's not the kind of thing they can devote to full time. So, like someone coming on a part-time basis, how long would it take them to get through the program?
That's another thing that's unique about us. We're not set up to create academics. We're set up to create research entrepreneurs, research speakers, people who have a much deeper capacity. So on a part-time basis, we're set up for part-time basis. You know, we don't have a place where you go and live. You don't come here and work. You continue in your own work because our people they have families, they have businesses, and their dissertation is a complement to their business. So it's not like you have to leave your business and come over here and put all your attention on doing a doctorate. There's a symbiotic relationship between the dissertation and your work. Your dissertation is deepening your understanding of your work and helping to bring a much greater sense of maturity into it, of wisdom into it, of power and expert authority into it. So it takes our average is about 24 months from start to finish, which is incredibly fast.
Wow. Yeah, that is.
And
And I remember talking to you about this, and for people like myself, like only have an undergraduate degree. I don't have a graduate degree, but I've been around the block many times. There are ways to accommodate that, you said?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So first we start with your master's degree and get that completed. We
Hmm.
take advantage of a nationally known program that was developed by the Post-Secondary Council on Accreditation many years ago, 40 or 50 years ago,
Hmm.
where they were able to recognize that learning happens off campus.
Hmm. What a concept.
The universities really had trouble with that. They actually still do, but they also use it. They don't promote it. They don't let you know it's there because you lose tuition. So the way it works is that we evaluate your life work, the work that you've done, well, everything you've done. We evaluate everything that you've done and we give you university credit for it. And then, like for your master's, you finish up the last maybe 25% of your degree. And actually what you're doing there is work that will not only move your business forward, but will help to prepare you for your doctorate.
Hmm.
So you can finish up your master's degree in just 4, 5, 6 months, depending on how much time you have.
Hmm.
Get your master's degree done, do your graduation. We do graduations, they're so much fun.
Yeah.
Full regalia, we do the whole thing, the cap and gown, it's fun.
Nice.
Invite friends, we have guest speakers from time to time, it's pretty fun. And so then go on to your doctorate. And again, you have a head start on your doctorate, so you don't have to do all 90 units. You've already completed, what do we give you? Up to about a third credit now for
Hmm.
your doctorate. And then there is some more work that you need to do to prepare to begin your dissertation.
Hmm.
So from there, we just jump you right in and you start working on your dissertation. So if you can put in just 15 hours a week, you can finish in about 24 months.
Wow. Wow. And what kinds of, I don't know what you call it, majors, do good concentrations do people typically focus on when they come to Gateway?
We just added energy psychology last year, which I'm very
Mhm.
excited about because we got a whole bunch of hypnotherapists who needed an education.
Ah.
So one of them told me, most of my recommendations come from the medical field. The doctor refers me, they come to me and they start calling me Dr. Jill, and I'm not a doctor. I have to explain to them I'm not a doctor, but I need to be because my clinical work will advance dramatically as Dr. Jill.
Right.
So that was her motivation, that people are already perceiving her that way. She might as well catch up with that.
Hmm.
That's been the story for many of our students that come to us. They say, people keep telling me that I should be Dr., you know,
Hmm.
Dr. Valerie, Dr. whoever.
Yes, yes. Okay, so energy psychology, what other kinds of
Energy
concentration?
psychology, consciousness and human potential,
Cool.
conscious business leadership, conscious
Mm.
entrepreneurship, transpersonal psychology has been really important for many people who are bringing, transpersonal means you're going beyond the personal. So
Hmm.
you're going
Hmm.
into realms of the whole being. So you're
Hmm.
bringing the knowledge, the brilliance of the whole being together in not only yourself, but also in your clients, in your work. So that's
Hmm.
transpersonal psychology or transpersonal education. A number of our students have some kind of a school or a healing center or something like that,
Hmm.
transpersonal psychology, or they have a clinical practice.
Hmm.
Transpersonal psychology is perfect for that. And
Gotcha.
then spiritual psychology, my doctorate was in spiritual psychology because that's me. Um,
Hmm. Cool. Cool.
and
And it is Gateway accredited?
no, we're not accredited because
Oh,
we're a church university. So as a church university, we don't need to be. And in the
okay.
accreditation world, there have to be other universities who are doing what you do. So the whole premise of accreditation
Oh,
means if you transfer from A to B, B should recognize at least a portion of the courses that you did at A, which means that you have
right.
to have similar courses to have
Right.
transference from one transcript to another, from one institution to another. And when Gateway started in 1986, there were no other consciousness universities. And now there are a few. So one of the things I do as president is I keep an eye out on what other consciousness universities are popping up and what curriculum are they offering. And as I see other institutions popping up, I look for our similar courses. I try to align our titles so that, I try to align our curriculum because I've got no control over theirs. But I'm constantly making little adjustments in our curriculum to align with other institutions so that when we do come to the point where we can apply for accreditation, we'll already be in alignment. So a lot of what I do as president is making sure that all of our procedures, our processes, our admin, how we protect the privacy of our students, everything is in alignment with standard acceptable accreditation requirements. What we give one unit for is in alignment with the golden standard in the academic world of what you get a unit of credit for.
Gotcha.
So we're lining up for that. At this point, I'm not aware of an accrediting organization that would be suitable for us, but there will be. As we go forward, there will be.
So even though you're not accredited, but people can still say they have a PhD, that they're a doctor.
Oh, yes. Our degrees are real. Our doctorate is real.
All right. Wonderful.
By the time you graduate, you know that.
You've been through it. You get the idea. Wonderful. All right. We got to take our last break of the show. God, I could talk with you for hours around this stuff. So when we come back, we just want to wrap it up and maybe talk about what do you love about running Gateway so much? And what is your message out there to people who are in this crazy world of spirituality? And yeah, we'll see. So everyone, please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. My guest this hour has been Reverend Dr. Kimberly Marooney, and we'll be right back to wrap it all up in just a moment.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Broncu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
So, Dr. Kimberly, I'm curious, what do you love about running Gateway and what you do?
I'm totally shocked how much I love this. I never would have guessed, and that's why I think it took me so long to say yes to Judith. But I love most watching people blossom into much deeper, more spiritually mature levels of themselves.
Hmm.
as they dive deeper into the real work of understanding who they are, what their mission is, and really the power of the work that they've been called to bring forward. So this
Hmm.
is where the rubber hits the road. So as an example, in one of our doctoral cohorts where we got together live in person, we went to Sedona and rented this big, beautiful mansion. And the whole focus for it was, once you are Dr. You, how do you want this doctorate to support you in the world going forward? What stages do you want to be on? Who do you want to be collaborating with? What's your key message? What are you bringing? What power, what superpower are you bringing to the world? Let's make sure that that gets into your dissertation.
Hmm. Hmm. Nice, nice.
And that's what I love the most, really looking forward at what's this for? What's your purpose for it? So that it's
Right.
purpose driven. It supports your life purpose, your soul mission. It's purpose driven work that is powerful and beautiful. And so, I feel like the fairy godmother here.
So it's not just about getting some extra initials at the end of your name. It's how is this degree going to impact your business, your life, your career, how you show up in the world. It's how is this really going to support you and help you to achieve the kinds of things that you want to achieve in your life.
Right. And part of that is owning up to what do you really want? Like
Mm,
one of our cohort, one of our students in that discovered that she actually wants to be a media mogul. And she didn't know that before. She started,
mm,
with she's got a little magazine. It's not little, it's a wonderful magazine. But she discovered that what she really wants is to become a very influential media mogul. And that happened at Sedona as we kept pushing her.
mm,
Think bigger, think bigger, think bigger. What is it really? And
mm,
that's when our true being can come through and really share with us the vision that terrifies us that we're not really ready to hear.
mm,
That's what's happening in that doctoral process. That's what's happened for me as I've put on the shoes of president, is it's
mm.
pushed me into a place in myself that I was too terrified to look at before I actually got here.
Mm. So what is the most difficult part for you of running this university and being the president of Gateway?
I'm not trained for this. For the business part, I'm the
Mm,
president. I'm really the CEO. I do a lot that I didn't realize I had a capacity to do.
yeah.
So, looking back, I realize I have been trained for this. And not only that, but Spirit sends me all the most amazing people just when I most need them to
Mm,
help me let go of different aspects and to trust that they can take this one on and take it
mm,
forward.
mm,
So it's been learning to be a team player, learning to do the deeper admin stuff, learning about, oh my God, the federal regulation stuff. Holy
yeah.
moly.
Yeah, I'm sure there's tremendous amount of
Are
regulations and
we
paperwork
doing
and
it
stuff.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. How many people do you graduate a year roughly?
We're small.
Hmm.
So we have about 15 in our cohort now, and it
Okay.
depends on, are they ready to graduate?
Right, right, right.
Are they
Yeah,
doing
so
the
so I
work?
imagine because it's small, people get a lot of attention. You're not just a number, that it's really you're an individual when you go to Gateway.
Yes, and that's why students can move much faster because we're giving you personal, individualized attention. So
Gotcha.
you're not just left out wandering in the weeds. Many of us have probably heard stories about um, uh, getting most of the way through a huge paper or a big dissertation, and then somebody new looks at it and says, "Oh, no, no, no."
Yeah. Yes, yes, and all that work goes out the window.
Right, right. You have to do it my way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we don't do it like that. No.
And loyal listener Megan says, sending love to you, Reverend Dr. Kimberly.
Mm,
Um,
love back at you.
uh, and just real quick, where do you see the future for Gateway? Like where are you moving? What's in front of you, I guess?
I was called to expand Gateway quite dramatically from how it was when I first received it.
Uh,
And so Judith Larkin Reno did an incredible job. We have a massive amount of intellectual property. She set up all of our procedures and our policies that we still actively use, even though we're also learning how to expand upon them. It's the one who set forward the federal regulations that we need to know. She tuned me into them so that I'm not making mistakes. I'm taking us forward in compliance. And so I see Gateway as becoming a really important hub in the consciousness world, in the thought leader world, the important hub for higher education, because there aren't really many institutions that are approaching higher education postgraduate work quite the way we do, where it's personalized, it's focused, it can happen pretty quickly. It happens in connection with your work, not apart from your work. So we have some really wonderful advantages that we're bringing forward that I would just love to see become a hub.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So unfortunately, we're out of time. I wish I had more time. If people want to learn more about you and about Gateway, where do they go? Where do they find you online?
Go to gatewayuniversity.org. Everything you need to know is there.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Reverend Dr. Kimberly, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on the show. It's been a pleasure to have you. I look forward to seeing how Gateway grows over the years, and who knows, maybe there's a higher degree in my future.
I would love that, Sam. I would absolutely love to mentor you.
Oh, thank you, darling. And of course, thank you, my loyal listeners, for tuning in every week. Without you, there is no show. And don't forget, if you did miss any part of today's show, you can always catch the replay on talkradio.nyc and on all the major podcasting platforms, Apple, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find the Conscious Consultant Hour. Don't forget, coming up next, it's Dr. Richard Lewis Miller and his show, Mind, Body, Health, and Politics, later today, followed by Frank Harrison and his show, Frank About Health. And we finish off the week on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. with Tommy DeMisa and his show, Philanthropy and Focus. Thank you all for tuning in. Take care. We will talk to you all next week. Bye-bye.